The Income Tax Appellate Tribunal or ITAT is truly a historic institution. It precedes the global phenomenon of tribunalisation of justice. Among all the tribunals in India, it indeed stands tall with glory inspiring all its stakeholders. But in the recent years, its performance has been on the decline. Its stakeholders have begun to complain about its poor infrastructure, poor recruitment process being bypassed by good quality lawyers and mounting pendency of cases. As per the latest data, there are 25,000 cases pending in Delhi alone. If one adds the pendency of Mumbai, both account for about 45% of the total pendency of cases. Before I take you to the studio, let me take you back to 1957, when the Frank Committee set up in England had listed out a few criteria of a good tribunal, and they are cheapness, easy accessibility, freedom from technicalities, and an expert knowledge of the particular subject. Now you are well equipped to judge the performance of the ITAT against these parameters.
Hello and welcome to Simply inTAXicating. Before I introduce the topic of discussion today, let me take you back to 1936 Income Tax Inquiry Report, which recommended setting up a forum whose decisions on questions of facts were to be final. This forum came into being on 25th January 1941. By next year, this is going to be a 75-year-old institution, a great temple of justice. Yes, I am referring to Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, popularly known as the ITAT. It has been functioning as an independent body, and it has been doing justice to the twin objectives with which it was set up: easy and quick justice. But of late, in recent years, it has been noticed that there has been a marked decline in the performance of this great institution. It also had its own share of controversies. The pendency has been mounting. It has reached a stage where probably one will get confused with the counting. As per the latest data collected by TIOL, as on 1st August 2015, the pendency has crossed 1 lakh, rather to be precise 1,08,000. Out of 1,08,000, there are 4 benches in 4 cities which account for almost 70% of the pendency. What has gone wrong? Where it has gone wrong? We are going to take into all these aspects. For that, we have 3 distinguished guests in the studio. We have Mr. Ajay Wadhwa, the President, ITAT Bar Association, Delhi. We have Mr. G C Srivastava, very popular advocate and former Director General International Taxation. We have Mr. R P Garg, Senior Vice President, ITAT. So 3 distinguished guests are going to look into all these aspects. Let me start with Mr. Wadhwa. So you please tell us that pendency has been a serious concern for both, for the revenue as well as the assesses, and of late even for the tribunal, and of course the bar.
Yes.
So would you like to throw some light on what has gone wrong? Why it is just mounting?
The key reasons, according to me, are: 1, the department which constitutes 50% of the litigation. Our belief is that they are filing appeals against their own officers, that is the Commissioner appeals, without much thought, without much filtration, without much care. It's become a ritual that wherever the quantum goes beyond a limit, maybe 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, go ahead and file the appeal. The issue is settled, not settled, the facts have been well adjudicated by the Commissioner appeal, is not being looked at. So that I feel, government as a litigator, that is a universal problem. And in fact, let me tell you, very recently the member of the CBDT, which is the highest body, has actually admonished the lower officers, taken note of this, that you are filing random appeals, which is leading us nowhere. So be careful. That is one reason. Second, of course, we've had very big problems as far as the infrastructures, the manpower in the tribunal is concerned. You know, we all agree.
Can we come back to infrastructure later?
Okay.
Let's focus on this, as you rightly said. So this government itself is a compulsive litigant. In 50% of cases, And as pointed out, we have also come across those instructions and the letters written by the member and admonishing, advising, sensitizing the officers in the field formations not to go for filing appeal in a mechanical manner. So, how serious is this problem from the revenue side, and why is it so? Ultimately, it's their revenue. The frivolous appeal doesn't help anybody, either the exchequer or the other side. So, why this kind of mindset, sir? Why this kind of culture?
See, this has been problem for pretty long now, and the attempt to reduce litigation has been going on for very long. In recent years, yes, number of instructions, and those without those instructions even. I mean, a person authorizing the appeal has to apply his mind and see whether it is worth going to a higher appellate forum. But somehow the amount of tax involved, as Wadhwa says, sometimes the commonality and the larger effect of the issue, though the tax may be very small, and then the reports coming in from the authorities below, I mean, how to negate that. I mean, all these have been working on the minds of the officer, and then tomorrow I may be questioned, some vigilance may arise against me, why did you not file the appeal? All kinds of factors have worked. But yes, having said all that, question is that a person who is given the authority to decide has to apply his mind and see whether it is worth going in appeal. But how do we ensure that? In any amount of instruction are not going to work.
Correct,
unless the people sitting there, I mean, you have now a group of commissioners or chief commissioners taking that also.
You are suggesting that there is something wrong with the ecosystem where a decision maker.
See, the point is on the revenue side, I am saying.
Right, sir.
There is only one way, I think, when litigation can be reduced for the government, that on major contentious issues, before the issue assumes any larger proportion, the government must come out with guidelines. There has to be a stand of the revenue that this is revenue's view on this issue. If the taxpayer is aggrieved, let him challenge that view, circular, and that circular will be knocked down. Right? Otherwise, what is the intent of the law? So either two things can be there. Either the law is not carrying the intent of the policy. If that is so, law is falling short of that intent, amend the law. Or if law is okay, the interpretation is going wrong, then amend by a simple guideline. That brings about uniformity across the country, then consistency in approach, and also reduces discretion in all these matters, including the filing of appeal.
Absolutely.
So that is the only way, I believe. Maybe CBDT doesn't have the infrastructure to undertake that kind of massive exercise, but then it can be outsourced to the groups, committees, formation. I mean, they can work on this, suggest the measures where we need those changes in law, or where we need to tell our people what is the right view under the law to be taken.
So, sir, ultimately all these things are going to be done by the TPL. Right?
Not TPL. I mean, TPL is not the TPL is, yes, they will carry out the problems, I mean, faced by, address the problems.
So is there any chance when you were in the TPL and today? And even in the entire setup of the board?
No, it has not changed.
This brings us to Dr. Pasathi Commission report, where he is talking about setting up a R&D body.
In fact, research and on time base, on time, I mean, research, see, that is nowhere there, I mean. Even my practical experience, I am not based on any data, that if we see all the entire litigation right up to Supreme Court,
right,
if we identify in domestic law, there may not be more than 30 major issues, will take care of 80% of litigation. Fact-based, purely fact-based issues, leave aside.
What is your opinion on this, sir?
Issue-based litigation is probably is the cause. Because only one issue, suppose the decision is not there of the tribunal or of the higher authority, then repeated appeals are coming. Nobody can check it. And the officer has necessarily to file the appeal, even if he believes that litigation is not fruitful. But he is afraid of taking a decision by himself also. That probably is the main cause for increase.
To basically to cap it and to plug it, as sir rightly suggested, that the board has to move fast. give clarification, maybe issue guidelines, etc., how to sort out things, and the intent part where there are a lot of disputes take place.
I'll just like to chip in. I completely agree with both this is the way forward. You see, there are two issues. One is the view of the board in advance on a particular legal issue. That comes by way of a circular.
Right.
We know what the view is going to be against the SSE. But that's so be it. That's one issue. The second issue, the second quick way of reducing, the second issue which he also touched upon is the fear in the minds of the officers on taking a decision. Now that can't go away. That's an issue which is relative, which is subjective. You may have a different boss, you may have some, that's something which you can't address. How you can address it is by having a data bank, which is where they are now moving towards, unfortunately so late in the day. Now let's say I'm the commissioner and I have to file an appeal. I plug into my computer and I have information from a cell in TPL that on this legal issue, the High Court has already decided and we have not gone to the High Court, to the Supreme Court. We have stopped short of that. I won't file the appeal.
Right.
You see, unless you have something wherein, something qualitative, something which is not subjective,
Right.
that's when the confidence will come in to take a decision.
That's the only other day, in one of the forums, the judge kept on asking me why the department has not gone in appeal.
Okay.
Right? Somebody said, small tax effect. Now,
Okay.
now, so issue is very large, very wide ramification. But then somewhere the tax effect is only 50,000 rupees, and then how does these all issues will keep on coming up. The problem is one, as Mr. said, that look, the appeal has been, one predecessor filed the appeal. Now all successors commissioners will keep on filing the appeal. Necessarily they have to file till the issue is decided. Once we have gone in the High Court, it has to.
And officers are not able to take a decision unless it is decided by the higher authority.
Right, it goes on accumulating. One after another assessment.
That increase the litigation.
So then what should be done here, sir? How to curb it? Ultimately it has to be stopped somewhere, sir. Otherwise, ultimately forums like this and, n number of members will not be able to decide all the things.
How I see more mature jurisdictions in the world have done it.
Right, sir.
More mature economies have. I find that in most of the developed economies are where tax administration is more experienced and mature. All they have done for this, whether they call it public ruling, private ruling, right? Or you call it a circular, or you call it, but guidance both to the public as also to the tax administration is the only key thing that can work. And unless we come to that level where we guide the taxpayer of their rights and duties, we take the tax administration, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do.
Right.
That is the only way.
But so what stops CBDT from coming out with this? Rightly suggested, if they on a particular issue, if a High Court has decided, let the CBDT take a call on that.
They are working, I think, on this as far as I know, but the problem is CBDT has too many things at hand. There has to be a proper infrastructure, is some research cell on which is collecting the data. Decision, how to take a decision.
Right, correct. Absolutely.
There has to be data on the issue. There has to be viewpoints on the issue. The taxpayers' stakeholders' viewpoint.
Right, correct.
So all that needs lot of input.
You see, research work interests nobody. Number one. Number two, they have so many administrative issues, so many appellate issues, so many promotion, so many such issues which are more to do with I would say an area which is completely divorced from this function. You see, assessment, which happens to be the most important function, which is the face of the department, is the most neglected function. You see, there are, you will agree with me. Imagine for 300 cases, there will be one assistant commissioner doing scrutiny of 300 cases in a year, where he has not more than 3 to 4 months to do that. And he is to ask hundreds and thousands of queries. Now, what quality assessment would you expect? If you don't have quality down below, nothing happens right till the very end. So this is an inverted model, but I would still say, sir, I am very hopeful now. Now the focus shifted. Good organizations like you see yours has, this is the first question and you spent already 10 minutes on this. Why? Because you are concerned. Now there are pressure groups which are coming up. Do not file appeals. Have these research data banks. They've constituted one, and I'm sure in the next 5-6 months it has in fact already started to function, but not in that manner. They don't have that sort of data. It'll start to come. Right. That's the only answer.
Yes.
Unless you have data on what to go in for, what not, and this subordinate legislation in the form of circulars, nothing is going to happen.
Right, so that brings us to, sir, the internal issues of the ITAT now. The pendency parts are again, of course, we looked at the supply chain side. But sir, if you look at the different benches, the number has gone up from 3 in 41 to 63 today. What are the key issues, sir? Why the disposal at one stage it had come down drastically, it is again going up? One reason could be, of course, the number of appeals being filed is more than the number of disposals. Certain benches, of course, this has been noticed, but largely, sir, it has been seen that the disposal has become much slower now.
No, that is basic reason for low disposal is this inflow of the members was very less.
New members.
New members, they require some time to cope with and there was a time when the strength of the tribunal was only 30%. And 30% people, how can you expect that disposal should be more? A particular bench can decide about 60 matters or 60 appeals in a month. Right. And if the 30% is there, it is only 18%. 3 into 6, 18%. That is the main reason.
So, sir, you are talking about the recruitment side.
Recruitment as well as availability of the members.
I would say there are 2 to 3 reasons besides this. You need some innovation. That is one. Innovation in the sense, bunching. Now, out of the lakh appeals, maybe there are 3,000-4,000 where the common issues are there, or where matters are very small, matters which involve penalty, which can be disposed of quickly. Somebody has to sit down and bunch those, club them, give them a push in one go. That will reduce the numbers. The second problem is, I would say, has to do a little bit from our side and also from the department side. From our side, what is happening is, you've got new areas like transfer pricing, international tax. Now, if you ever happen to be in the tribunal when a TP matter is to be argued, you will have people now coming in with truckloads of information, truckloads of paper books.
Absolutely.
Now, if you put up 20,000 pages on the table of the member and you want him to refer to some 50, 100, 200 pages, each case, Mr. Srivastava will bear with me, they run on to go up to days and days. I mean, they go on endlessly.
Right.
There are cases galore where I have argued not on TP matters for 10 days. They may be the final members there. They were not there for 6 months, 8 months, have no case.
Absolutely.
Now, that is one. That's another reason. So the average time taken now
is more.
Is much more. And then, of course, we have the problem from the other side. Here, I'd like to touch upon this very important fact that again, the department completely neglects the departmental representatives. They are children of nobody. Now, they are there. They don't have records. They don't have the assessing officer coming them to help them. They are saddled with 20 cases in a day. How many can anybody do? I mean, it's humanly impossible.
So, don't you think so? This is completely unfair kind of duel. It's a wrestling,
It is.
Somebody is 40 kg is fighting with 400 kg.
Yes,
I mean, that kind of wrestling is not a fun even for the spectators like us.
Totally an even fight. I mean, I think something really, it's a matter of the mindset over the years. Now, assessment is a primary function.
Right.
But if those assessments cannot be defended, then what is the use of making those assessments?
Sir, absolutely.
So, somewhere a realization has to come the time.
Sir, why it has taken so many years, sir?
That
it is
litigation,
not dawning on them.
I mean, defending
I'll tell you, sir, I'll just chip in. Sir, as you rightly said, thanks to the burden that they have and the lack of backup, if it were not for the institution of tribunal, which is supposed to be completely impartial, I still say it is completely impartial, but that the latitude that they give the DRs to come up
Yes, yes.
is amazing. How much opportunity they give them. I can tell you, sir, now you are on the other side. If the tribunal was to be very objective,
Yes, yes. I know.
95% of the cases of the
I know.
department would fail. I tell you this.
I
No,
know.
no, they are failing also.
They're failing,
They
but they would
not
fail in the
only
first
fail.
go.
95%
are so
appeals
poorly represented.
are failing because of the misrepresentation or less
Lack
representation.
of-
Quality of
Yes,
representation.
quality representation.
Point is that emphasis has to come. And once a realization comes that we have to defend these cases. Right. Whatever are worth defending. I'm not saying all kinds of additions are to be defended. Not to say that, but then whether it is the number of DRs, the facility that they should get, the assistance that they should be provided to them. The first thing is the recognition that this is an important area of the department. That recognition has
But
to
as
come.
Mr. Wadhwa rightly suggested, sir, that they are the forgotten children.
Yes, yes.
That is why, sir, the serious officers, they don't want to come to the tribunal.
And there are people, who have the necessary aptitude. Some of the DRs have done exceedingly well.
Of course.
Very well. Very
Yes,
well.
I know.
Yes.
Personally, some of
Officers
them.
are
So-
not able to take a decision unless it is decided
then
by
they
the
are
higher
transferred
authority.
out.
Higher
Because
authority.
they are good, so they are
Increase the
users.
litigation. That increase the
See,
litigation.
we were just discussing, in Delhi today, it's almost been 2 months when we don't have regular commissioner DRs. And we need at least 10 of them.
Right.
What is happening? Commissioner appeals are being borrowed. Those poor people, they are leaving their jobs, coming here for a week. Again, handle 100 cases in a week. Do you expect them with no continuity?
This is terribly ad hoc mannerism,
Look
sir.
at this. Look at this.
How can that work really?
So, all the tall statement being made in the parliament, outside the parliament, by the minister, by etc., they must be aware of it, sir. I am pretty sure. It's not possible that minister is not aware, chairman is not aware, secretary is not aware.
Neglect, it is apathy and neglect. And I can tell you, sir, but for this, it's not that since I am on the other side and representative of the bar, this venerable institution, sir, you will agree with me that largely the members that we have are true experts. The other reason, the other problem that we are facing besides this is, as you very rightly put up, that there are 4 stations where 70% of the cases are there. Now, what should logically follow? What should logically follow is that you should focus on those 4.
Absolutely.
You should put your best foot on those 4. You should put your best officers on the 4, on those places, and train the younger ones also. Besides
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Right.
Now, that is something which the bosses have to think.
Right.
They have to get the very best there.
Absolutely.
And areas like TP, now it's an area which you can't experiment with. Because the moment you experiment with, you are opening huge vistas of open legal issues, which will be again challenging.
Pandora
hundreds
box.
of years.
It's a Pandora
So you need to
box.
settle them.
Right.
How do you settle them? You settle them with your best officers handling TP.
Absolutely.
Let them give quietus there. Let them pass quality judgments which are upheld.
Question is,
Those are it.
any policy, whether it be the transfer policy, has to serve the object of the organization.
Absolutely.
It cannot be object in itself.
You're right, sir.
Right? Now, if you need certain people
Yes.
at certain positions, then use them the best way you can.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of their how much he has stayed, how much other person has spent in Delhi or in Bombay or in Ahmedabad. Policies are meant to serve the organization.
Mr. Srivastava has hit the nail on the head. Let me give you an example. and you will see the fundamental flaw in the institution. There was a judgment of the Supreme Court which probably stated that members who have practiced in a station before joining should not be posted to that situation.
Right.
No. Judgment is to be interpreted in the spirit in which it is.
Absolutely.
It is not the gospel truth, it's not Bhagavad Gita that you have to follow every word of it. What has happened since then? Now there is a complete embargo on any member getting back to the station where he had practiced, even if he has been in the tribunal for 10 years or 7 years. Now imagine if I am given an option, let's say, and I know that I am never ever going to come back to Delhi for the next 20 years.
Right.
Do you think you
will never join that.
people?
Correct. Absolutely.
No, this is another problem. And should this be stretched? Should this be taken to these limits? All right, don't post him for the first 5 years. Idea is that he should not be able to, he doesn't have some
Bias,
sort of,
element of
bias
bias.
or friends who maybe, that goes away.
Original idea was for 5 years. I don't know how it came to the Supreme
Even for
Court.
5 years,
They made it full.
You see, the moment somebody downs the bench, let me tell you, he's a man transformed.
Absolutely.
That's been my experience.
Yes.
My experience has been that in a large number of cases, he doesn't want his friends to be there, and friends also don't go there.
Right.
This is the culture, this is the tradition of the institution. But look at the harm it has caused. In the last 10, 15 years, you haven't got good people.
Yeah, you
are not
going to
getting
get
good
talent.
people. You
Yes,
will not.
the talent will say goodbye to you.
By that time, he became matured also to deal with the friend also.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Not that he will do favors to them.
Absolutely. But sir, what happens in the benches normally, sir? You know, I mean, like Mr. Wadhwa is suggesting that, for instance, some of the specialized areas, very technical areas, so how exactly the members are picked up and, you know, the rosters are prepared?
No, that there is no fixed policy for that.
No guidelines,
No. As you said, that bench is fixed, a year marked,
Right,
but
sir.
members vary according to the need. So there's
Because,
no
sir, you know, I noticed recently in a couple of cases that one member is very senior member and his partner
is very
the
junior,
baby.
because
You know, he
has
needs
to cope
bottle
with
feeding.
It has to be. It has to be.
So, I mean, this kind of gaps are, you know, generally...
It has to be.
No.
Otherwise, the junior people will never be.
I agree.
But, sir,
But there's a problem.
This gap...
You see, what is the idea? The idea is that there are two people, independent people.
Right. Who could apply...
And apply their independent mind so that
mind.
the best comes out. Now, if, as he says, there is one who is a complete stalwart and there is another who is a baby. Now, why? You see, basically, they're not picking up babies. They are picking up people with 10, 15, 20 years of experience as chartered accountants, as lawyers. They are brilliant people who are being picked up. What do you need before you have them to sit on the bench? Training.
Absolutely.
Is there any training worth its while?
Yeah, that is very important aspect.
You just make them sit there the very next day. They're completely overawed. They're brilliant. But they'll take at least 6, 8, 10 months to be able to understand.
But the
Should you not have a
transparency
capsule?
was never a part of their curriculum, even in the colleges, etc. And somebody was practicing as a chartered accountant in a place like Muzaffarnagar. And he comes to Delhi.
Correct.
And he sits with another member who is so much familiar with TP issues. He will never be able to contribute anything, sir.
Academic knowledge and to sit on the bench are not.
No, sir, I am just saying some background. You know, of course, as you rightly said, sir, but some background helps.
Some background? No, and you need training. 2, 3, 4 months of good training, not only in terms of academics. Of course, academic is, he already comes with that and we learn.
Right.
But the procedures, the conduct on the court, then they should also even go to the high court and see how high courts are functioning.
Right.
Come back with those sort of ideas.
But
the
sir, normally
criteria for selection, I believe, should be judicial mind. I mean, if that judicial mind is there, the expectation is that they would pick up on any given issue. But if there are highly specialized and very technical areas, no harm in giving them, I mean, accepting that and giving them.
But you know, this basic.
An exposure to that subject. Exposure.
is very
Without having any doubt on their capability.
On this note, I would like to wrap up the first episode, and in the second episode with the same set of panelists, we would be discussing about many more issues confronting the great institution of ITAT. Let me first thank my guests, and the major takeaways in this episode are, over the years, the income tax department has turned into a chronic litigant. It accounts for about 50% of litigation before the tribunal, where the graph of pendency has been going up at a rapid pace. Although more needs to be done at the tribunal stage, but a long-term solution lies in senior departmental officers taking the pain of examining the merit of a case before authorizing filing of fresh appeals. Secondly, the CBDT needs to assure the CIT appeals that the sword of vigilance would not hang over their heads as long as they are bold enough to take decisions on merit. What can further reduce litigation is the much needed initiative by the CBDT in terms of compiling a list of all contentious issues, which should be not more than about 35 in number, and quickly come out with the stand of the government. Such an action would send clear message not only to the field formations but also SSCs. An equally important issue is that CBDT needs to take care of the representation a little more seriously. It loses more than 90% of cases either because of underrepresentation or poor representation. then there is something seriously wrong with its transfer policy which fails to post full-time CIT DRs. Presently, it is managing with CIT appeals working on rotation basis. It is indeed a sorry state of affairs. Worse is the case of assessment, which happens to be the most critical function of the department. It is high time for the CBDT, which accords top priority to all such issues which deserve such priorities and reduce litigation which is eventually not serving the interest of the exchequer. Thanking you all for watching TIOL Tube.